Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, it is yours truly once again, the corporate security translator and the author of this little book right there, So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. Today, we got somebody really special for you. I'm talking about prior LEO to working at places like Orchard and then Coxcom, big-time professor, you name it. The guy's involved with it. He's a leader in our industry, and I'm not even going to delay. I'm just going to go ahead and just welcome Alan Saquella. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, it is yours truly once again, the corporate security translator and the author of this little book right there, So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security. Today, we got somebody really special for you. I'm talking about prior LEO to working at places like Orchard and then Coxcom, big-time professor, you name it. The guy's involved with it. He's a leader in our industry, and I'm not even going to delay. I'm just going to go ahead and just welcome Alan Saquella. How are you, my friend?
Carlos, thank you so much for having me on. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Man, this is really exciting because, I mean, honestly, I get to talk to so many great folks, my friend. But you with your background and all the stuff that you've done, this is exciting, man. And, man, I'm seeing you a whole lot, man. I'm seeing you, like, on LinkedIn a whole bunch. You're doing some amazing things out there. How's life going, man?
It's really going well, Carlos. I mean, I've had a great career. And, as I look back and reflect on all the wonderful things I've done, what's probably the best part of my career is right now, giving back, bringing people into this field, bringing students into this field. So it's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. The work that you're doing with students too, man, I thought that was really exciting because you're kind of preparing them for what the future is in kind of the corporate world and all the other, and I call them under the criminal justice umbrella, law enforcement, military, federal careers, and all that stuff. But you're doing some really good stuff with that. And thank you. Thank you for giving back to the students, because I get to speak a little bit here and there, but you're doing it, man. You're in the middle and you're in the thick of it. So thank you. Thank you very much for that, bud. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, listen, let's just kick this thing off. We got about 30 minutes and and this thing goes by fast and I got to pull a bunch of stuff from you, man. I got to pull a bunch of great stuff. So let's just start talking about you, man. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself and what's going on in your life?
Well, I started off in a law enforcement arena. Then I graduated into polygraph.
Graduated. I like that.
Graduated. Well, I got the opportunity to go. I was mentored by a longtime polygraph examiner, worked in a crime lab for DPS in Arizona. And he was retiring and going to CIA for a second tour of duty. So this guy did the old double dip. And so he mentored me. And of course, I went to polygraph school in Arcadia, California, Gormac. Then I did polygraphs for a while. And of course, like so many, I migrated to the corporate world because I tripled my income overnight. And I just couldn't live off the salary I was making. So then that, of course, took me into corporate investigations, different positions around the country with corporations. Then ultimately decided at the end of my career, which was this summer, I took a buyout from my organization I was working for and decided to go teach. I'm teaching this semester. I just finished up yesterday with finals at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I'm in the College of Business, Security, and Intelligence. And since we talked, Carlos, they offered me a full-time teaching job starting in January.
Oh.
I'm going to be teaching 2 sections of interview interrogation and then 2 sections of security investigations up there at Embry-Riddle. So that's four classes. So I'm excited about it because, what we're doing and what we're hearing out in the industry is that in a corporate side, they want skills, they want certificates, they want kids that are motivated. So I'm trying to fill the void from the entry level at this point, but this call is more specifically on transitioning from law enforcement. So be happy to talk about anything in and around that.
We're definitely going to get into deep a lot of stuff, but also doing some forensics.com. But by the way, forensics.com, tell me a little bit about that too, and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah, Forensics is a company that has basically automated the screening process from pre-employment also to investigate. And of course, I've been working with them and I've tested it in very complex investigations where there are numerous suspects. And basically, to simplify the description, you send a link to the people that need to go through this process. They click on it, they start answering the questions. And we know as former investigators that people who are being deceptive take longer to respond. They have an autonomic nervous system response, which goes into a flight or fight reaction, which causes delays in your ability to respond or then your choice. So it looks at how you answer the question, what you answer with, whether you change your answer, how long you hover over the question on the survey. And of course, this all points us in the direction of who our suspects are, which narrows the suspect pool. So one case where I was working with forensics on, we had 80 suspects. By using this particular tool, we narrowed it down to 5, and then the investigator only had to interview 5.
Right.
So solve the case in short order and very little cost compared to the old days when you had to go interview everybody. So forensics, great company, but if you get a chance, go to forensics.com.
Love that, man. Very cool. Very cool what they're doing. I like that. Makes it easier for me on my side of town, man. So good. But listen, so let's get deep in this, man, because, the whole goal here is to really help any of those folks that are trying to transition into the corporate world, like yourself, like you did, like I did, a lot of the folks out there did, coming from the military, law enforcement, federal careers, and, anybody else that wants to get into this thing. And I know that you interview a lot of folks for these great opportunities, from manager positions to possibly director positions and up and down, supervisory positions. So let's focus on that a little. Let's kick off on the interview kind of process and your ideas. And what are some of the things that you're seeing out there that you're like, folks that are interviewers should really focus on this, man? So tell me what you think.
Absolutely, Carlos. One of the things you have to do when you want to transition, whether you're retiring or you just want out, you have to check your badge at the door. In other words, you're going to have to change the mindset. And I will tell you, it's very difficult to do that for many, especially on a dime. So really, I like to say you need an 18 to 24 month transition period before you leave law enforcement. Now, sometimes that may not be possible because you are just out. You find yourself out, or you get out and you decide, I want to get into corporate security. So corporate security has a lot of areas. It's not just the physical security aspects or managing an RSOC. There's a lot of investigative work out there as well. And in my department, I had fraud, internal investigations. We investigated anything within the organization, but I was also responsible for the physical security aspects of the business. So one, check your badge at the door. But prior to that, if at all possible, you've got to start changing your mindset through that, what I call that 18 to 24 month transition period. And I think the best way to do that is by joining the American Society for Industrial Security. Start to rub elbows with those folks that are in there. Find a mentor and find a mentor that has successfully transitioned. Someone that made the transition. Some have. There's some that have not. I would also recommend you talk to those who did not make the transition. And I've hired hundreds of people in my career in security roles, investigator roles in the corporate arena. And I can give you some great examples of those who made it, those who didn't. And so I know we'll get into that. I got to clap it up, man. I'm going to clap. Yeah. I'm going to clap because that is pretty good. And that's money, by the way. That's money too. So here, it's funny because in this little book right here, like I said, that I write, it's actually what you just said. And I don't know if you read my book or not, but anyways, there's some amazing things that you're bringing up that are really important. So I like the idea of being the best friend with everyone in the office, especially as I know people are leaving. And I wrote in the book, like, if you know somebody's about to retire, right, and you work next to them, be the best teammate that you could possibly be. Start thinking that way. If you weren't, right, if you were just a horrible human being, you might want to start changing the way you were. And the reason for that is because these folks that are retiring today and going into the corporate world, they might be hiring you in the future. So you might want to be nice to them and then ask a lot of questions about their process and be engaged with them. That could help. And that person could be what you're saying, your new mentor. Because a lot of times we don't see folks, especially in the law enforcement world, I know for sure, like mentors are peers kind of thing. We don't, or we're afraid to talk about it. Like, hey, man, you're really a mentor to me. We don't let our hearts out like that, So I like what you're saying about that. Now, going back to, I think one of your first statements was checking the badge at the door. I agree, man. I agree because you got to come into this new world really open-minded.
you have to relearn everything. You're like a new baby. You're a newborn baby in the corporate world, and you have to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. So you have to check your badge at the door, because you got to come in open-minded. You got to come in vulnerable. You got to come in ready and excited to learn, right? All these other things. And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, Carlos, you're right on. I mean, that's the beginning of it, certainly. But, one of the things I'd recommend even prior to that is, and this may be good for anybody, and I recommend it to everybody, it might be time to take another one of those career interest inventories where you go online and it asks you a bunch of questions about tasks in a job. And if your likes don't match that of a corporate security arena, maybe that's not the place for you. Maybe it's time to think about doing something totally different. Go teach high school, go sell insurance, go do something else. But if your tasks or likes that you have match that of a corporate security environment, then yeah, you should certainly go down that path. And so we talked about the mentor. We talked about changing your mindset, but it even goes beyond that. You have to pick up some skills. You can't go into the chief financial officer's office and say, listen, I need $100,000 because I want to upgrade our camera system. There's a thing called return on investment. There's a thing called profit and loss. There's a thing called the SWOT analysis. And I'm not talking about from a military standpoint. I'm talking about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats from a business perspective, and how you're going to need to speak the language of business.
Right.
You learn that by going back to school. You don't need a criminal justice degree to get in corporate security. What we're finding now is, and I will tell you, I like folks that have accounting. I like business. I like folks that can actually talk with folks in the arena of business, in accounting, so that they can really communicate their needs in a way that's understandable. In my last position, I actually was mentored by an MBA student, and it was the best experience when I first got into that role about 16 years ago. And he said, Alan, now you're not going to get any assets if you go in and try to sell it that way. And so he taught me all these things. I didn't go get an MBA. I got the learning person's MBA.
Right.
Learned it from some 20-something-year-old kid. But in addition to that, the company's standard was, we need 5-to-1 return. So if you come in and I give you $100,000, you better give me $500,000 in something. So that better be in reduced accidents and insurance claims and recoveries or prevention or risk avoidance. So those are the kind of language terms that you use in a business world. What are you doing to prevent, reduce, recover assets to the company? You're going to give me that 5-to-1, or don't come talk to me. So that might seem harsh from someone coming from law enforcement, but that's the language of business, and you got to do it, because remember, we're in there to make a profit.
Man, so you talk about the old profit and loss, the P&L. Man, look at you. But you're right. This business thing is one of the best things that ever happened to me was actually getting a business degree. That's one of the biggest things for me to really learn, that profit and loss and how budgets move, because it's has a lot to do with what you do in the corporate world. Physical security, we get all those concepts, loss prevention, right? It actually used to be called loss prevention, and it was asset protection after that. Thanks, Target, for changing all that around. But anyway, so there was a lot of great things that you just mentioned so let's just recap again. I like the ASIS stuff that you mentioned. You're right. I've created a lot of relationships with my local ASIS team. I call them team. They're all friends of mine. We're all part of the same thing. We're striving for the same good. But you create a lot of great relationships. So if you're out there today and you're trying to slowly transition into the corporate world, ASIS, you're right, Alan. A great opportunity to get in, mingle, learn from people, let them learn about you. And there's a good chance you might just get hired by one of those folks. But you know what I like that you even said? It's about taking stock of your own self before you go out there and start looking for things. And what ASIS will help you do is learn more about you, learn more about the line of business you want to get into, because you might meet some tech people, or you might meet some hospitality people, or you might meet some pharmaceutical folks. What's going to happen is that you're going to learn from them, and you're going to realize maybe I should be going into hospitality because I love to host people, and that's where I need to be. Or, I'm really into tech, or I'm really interested in the kind of the rigidness of the banking industry. Because if you're rigid, that might be a good place for you, but you get to learn all these things, and taking stock on yourself. It's a big one, man. I appreciate that you brought that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good stuff, man. So, don't forget where you come from too is a concept for me that I enjoy, because just like you're giving back. You're giving back. And not only now you're a big time educator. Congratulations, by the way. Embry Riddle, man, it's right down the street from me in Florida back when I was in Orlando, Daytona Beach area. Love that. So
Great university. Yep.
that's right. So, but you're giving back in that kind of way, but I don't think you ever forgot where you came from, because you're always helping people out on anything and everything that you can possibly imagine. Tell me, does that, for me personally, it makes me feel good. And I know it takes away time from me and my family and everything else, but it's kind of like my release valve when I give back. It
Yes.
lets me calm down. How's that work for you in this world?
The same thing. Throughout my career, I always took on mentors, and I learned this through ASIS. I've had mentors in my career that helped me get into this position or get into in the corporate security world, and I'm doing the same. So when I was in the corporate world, I always took on mentees, if you will, and I help those to transition. Because it's not just about wanting; it's about learning and offering and helping them learn the lingo. Because a lot of the lingo you use in law enforcement doesn't transfer. They don't care about arrests and apprehensions. It's more about prevention. It's about reducing losses. It's about, like I said, P&L, return on investment. So learning to speak the language, help that person make that transition, give back, and so it's exciting when you can see someone successfully transition. It's exciting to bring people into this career because there are a lot of skill sets from law enforcement that are transferable. Because in the corporate world, they need people to do thorough investigations. You may not always prosecute them, but you may go after them privilege, you may go after recovery. You may prosecute, or you may just terminate. In any event, those cases all have to be documented as if they were in fact going to court. So those skills are transferable. And many of the other skills are transferable as well. One of the things I say to all leaders in corporate security, at the bottom of their job description, there's a little bullet. And the bullet is always looking for talent, recruiting. And the way you do that is you're constantly mentoring. You're constantly reaching out. You're doing it through ASIS. And for those who are interested, that are really interested, spend some time, pick somebody, work with them on a regular basis throughout your career. Every year, you should be mentoring a couple of LEOs that want to come over, or even young kids that are graduating from college. Just a combination. Give back. I love it.
Yeah, man. Every great leader is a mentor. Every great leader is a mentor. Every leader, I don't know what you're going to call it, every manager I ever had that was pretty lousy only cared about themselves. Only cared about themselves. And you can clearly see the separation of a leader and a manager.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I mean, it's just crazy. But I like that, and I like the entire giving back. But you did mention a couple of things, then let's go back to that, because you said the language of corporate is extremely important for you to learn. And what happens is that I've interviewed people before, Alan, and the entire time I'm interviewing them, they're talking cop lingo, or they're talking military lingo, and they're talking, and it's just it just drowns me out, man. I start going somewhere else because I'm thinking, man, they didn't do their homework. They didn't really take the time to learn a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and what the corporate wording is like for what you're trying to do, and then be able to explain what you're trying to tell me in a corporate manner. Because I'll ask, so tell me how you did that. And it was like, well, I'll lead into 25th, 30th Battalion of this. We led the strike forces on the west and the east, and which we had. We took over the city, and I'm like, all right, man, wow, thank you. It's amazing. That's a great story. You should put that on a book because it'll probably sell or create a movie out of it. But I need to know, what was your process throughout? How did you keep people safe? How did you lead people through this process? It's so very different. I don't know if you see that or not.
The thing is it goes back to my original statement about transitioning in advance of making the jump in the leap. You have to identify those and those who want to come in, and you're going to have to start working with them early. And you have to have the courage to be able to say, listen, dude, you have to get rid of that lingo and let's change it to this. And you start giving them some homework assignments. Learn about the CCTV equipment we're using in industry today, and the intrusion systems and the access control systems and the things that we use to select candidates. We need to use words that we use. You need to use the same ones. And then you need to understand them, not just throw them out there. Because to your point, Carlos, you'd mentioned you're going to test them. You're going to ask them to explain. If they have a good comeback, they don't understand the concept.
Yeah.
They need to understand, I call business acumen, financial acumen. You get those two down, it's going to be an easier transition. You can create a safe environment, but you have to do it on the front end before they're knocking at your door. It's kind of like even in the academia world, seniors coming up to me that are graduating now, December, and they're asking for help on their LinkedIn page and a resume. Guess what? It's a little late. They should have been talking to professors early on while they were sophomores and juniors, so that we can get that to the point, get their LinkedIn page to the point where they have at least 500 contacts, that the resume is ready to go. Don't come knocking on my door the day you retire. Don't come knocking on my door the day you graduate. You have to. You got to take the initial move, and that shows true interest too, Carlos. If they truly are interested,
yeah.
Not just because that's a natural transition to go in corporate security. It's because if you're waiting until the end, then maybe you haven't done your research.
I agree. So, man, all right, let's go back then. Let's go back. Every time you say something, man, you turn me on to a couple of different things. So I love it. I love it, Alan. So here's a couple of things then to go back a bit on what you're saying. So intrusion detection systems, camera systems, everything and anything from access control. Listen, if you're listening to this right now or you're watching on YouTube, you have to go and just research companies. Go research all camera companies. Go research access control companies, because even within their website, they teach little classes that you could just get an idea what their system is like, what they do. And then they offer external classes. You can actually take classes on, I don't know, Linnell, Secure, WinPack, if you're doing access control, like all those things, camera systems, right? Genetec and every Vigilon and all the other cameras that are out there today. You can start doing that, folks, today. You can start learning those things today. And that's extremely important. Going into LinkedIn, Alan, from what you were saying. So here's a couple of things that I see on LinkedIn. People are not reaching out to other folks and making connections. I'm glad that you put that 500 number. I like that number. Good job on that. I also see a lot of folks with the old suit and tie with a picture in front of the American flag kind of thing. And the industry has changed a little bit now. It just looks too rigid. Soften up a little bit. Take off your tie. Relax, but take a nice picture. I see a lot of those. And then I see in the background of their LinkedIn pictures, like something to do with the military, law enforcement, like, the big banner of... I'm not saying it's not a good thing. It's a great thing. But if you want to get into the corporate world, you got to soften that up a little bit once again. But I see that on a lot of people. I like your 500 number. I'm going to start using that from now on if anybody talks to me. But I see a lot of that on people's LinkedIn profile that I'm like, I just tweaked that a little bit.
No, Carlos, you're right on. And I'm smiling as you're mentioning the American flag or the FBI insignia behind them. And I'm thinking, okay, they haven't made the transition yet because they haven't dumped that photo. That's the very first thing you have to do is change your image. And your LinkedIn profile's got to be updated. You're going to have to take off. Like I'm counseling some kids now that had prior military that came to Embry-Riddle. And I've totally blown up their LinkedIn page and said, listen, we got to get rid of that infantry on there. We don't care about that. We have to select words that are going to apply. Like I mentioned earlier in a conversation, your resume is going to go through an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system. If you're applying for a big corporation, and guess what? You're not going to make it past that because you don't have words that match the job description. And really cool, Carlos, I'll send you after this call a free site where you can go and you can upload your resume and upload the job description. Then it's going to do a quick comparison and tell you what percentage of your keywords match the key descriptors in the job description. If you don't meet a certain percentage, you'll never make it past the applicant tracking system and you're out. You want to update and change the words. And they'll even tell you, they'll even point them out, they'll highlight them for you, which is awesome. And so that'll get you past that computer so you can actually talk to the first round recruiter. So that's another tool that's very important as you're trying to transition, because guess what? just because you got this illustrious career in law enforcement, it doesn't transfer unless you make the changes.
Yeah, that's an outstanding tool. And yeah, if you send it to me, I'll put it up on when I post it, and then we'll go from there. But it's quite interesting, something that may possibly be the old applicant training tracking system. Could be knowing that mole inside. If you can start creating relationships, like Alan said, at least 500 connections within LinkedIn, what you're going to find is that you're going to start finding folks that work for those companies that can put your resume in internally, and then at the same time send that hiring manager a quick little message. Hey, this guy or this gal is tremendous. You should really look at them, which just sparks up something, and it gets your resume through. And I call that getting your resume through the building. Alan, if you remember, at least when I was growing up, that it was like your resume will get you through the interview door. I mean, that was like the big thing, right? If you have but today you need to get into the building, which is a lot of this, the ATS system. You got to get past that, get into the building. So in order to get into the building, you got to have that mole, that buddy inside of the company, and that helps a whole lot.
No, Carlos, you're right on. I mean, the applicant tracking is great if you don't know anybody, getting past that. But you're absolutely right and dead on. They will not hire you unless you somehow can get a referral. Every job I've had in the corporate world was I found that mole you're talking about. So yes, I applied, then I realized through my network I got somebody that knows somebody in that company, and then I reached out, built a relationship, and asked if they would mind passing my name along. And so, yes, you have to do that.
Yeah.
And the way you're going to build that network is through LinkedIn. So build it. I mean, you have a great network, Carlos. And so you got to get that 500 building on it.
I like that. And by the way, if you are listening right now, you actually have to go into the LinkedIn system to also turn your LinkedIn on for recruiters, so the recruiters can see that you're interested. A lot of times forget to do that. I know you got to go within the system somewhere. I probably should do a tutorial on this, look at it myself. But there is an on button to make sure recruiters know you're interested. If a lot of times if that's not on, recruiters will not see you. But LinkedIn today, for people all over the world, LinkedIn today is a great tool to do exactly what Alan is saying in creating some relationships, partnerships, and just getting to learn about the business too. Like here's a good one, Alan. I don't even think you need to be looking for a job directly to connect with folks. You just need to connect with them so you can learn from them on what it is. So like if you want to get into the tech industry, connect with some folks in the tech industry doing about the job that you think you want to do, and ask them for like 10, 15 minutes of their time. What do you think about that?
No, that is awesome. I mean, it's about building relationships, asking questions, and learning about the business. The cool thing about LinkedIn is, as I transitioned out of corporate into education, the company took really good care of me with a nice severance and a nice outplacement. I have a career coach right now that they're actually paying for. And one of the things that she showed and told me is that LinkedIn has now surpassed all search engines. They're used more like 85% by most recruiters than any other vehicle to find folks, because you can actually go on, like you said, Carlos, and you can turn on your notifications. And once you've built your profile, you just click on the jobs button. And what that will do is it'll tell you jobs that you're qualified for based on your profile anywhere in the world. And of course, I mean, that instantaneously that are open. It's just a powerful tool, and I can't stress enough how important it is. Plus all the education, the free educational stuff that's out there on LinkedIn as well.
Absolutely, the free educational stuff, which is just really, really cool, man. That LinkedIn has put together. So I'm a big fan. I've been a big fan of LinkedIn for a very long time. All the way back when I was still in Orlando, Florida, working for the Mouse. So big fan of that. So very, very cool. Well, we're slowly closing out. Alan. And I usually think about a couple of things that I like to tell folks at the end of it all. Hey, here's some of the things that you just focus on, a couple of little things, and let's just start moving your career forward. Can you share with the folks what, in your mind, some of that is?
Well, it's going back to what we talked about. And if you can focus just on a couple of these, you're going to be in you have a good start. So start learning now. Get out there, start researching and learning the terminology, learning the lingo, and start building your network on LinkedIn. And then once you have that, have someone else look at it. get a mentor, and then talk to them, those who successfully transitioned. But then also talk to those who had not made it. If you can identify some of those who did not make it, because you want both perspectives. So I think with that, and if you truly want to get into this arena, there's plenty of jobs. One of the things that we didn't cover is the number of jobs.
Oh, yeah.
On the cyber side, there are 600,000 positions unfilled in the United States. On the corporate security and fraud investigation side, we have a lot of positions open, mostly on the entry level area that are still open. Give you an example, as the students of mine were getting to graduate, I did a quick Google search on a big metropolitan area for fraud investigators. I found 50 vacant positions in this city. It was a pretty good sized city. And well, I'll give you the city, it's Phoenix. But in any event, they had 50 positions, fraud investigators, either in banking or insurance, with no experience in a college degree. They're going to start you at $50,000 a year. They're hurting. So that's a good segue in. If you like investigations, then you can work your way. Then there's also security operator positions, pay about the same. And then intelligence one officers in corporations. So there's a lot of jobs out there. You just got to clean that resume up, build that LinkedIn page, change some of the lingo, get that professional photo, as you mentioned, and just start going to those ASIS meetings in your local city and building that personal network.
Good points. Outstanding stuff, Alan. You are the man. Thank you very much for spending time with us today. I love everything you said, and I even like the cyber side of things. We're going more cyber every day. So right now, if you're thinking about what degree you might want to get, or whatever, a master's that you might want to get, think about going in that direction. Maybe getting a CompTIA Security Plus certification. That always helps with everything that you're doing. But I want to thank you again, Alan, for coming out. This has been an awesome quick chat. I hope folks get a lot of good stuff from it, man. So thank you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate the time.
You got it, everybody. So check out forensics.com. Really cool stuff he's talking about. That was Alan Saquella. I like that, man. I'm really excited that I can just say a name as I read it, because a lot of time, being from Brazil, that's just how we do it. But I'm a big fan of that. So Alan did a great job with everybody. We talked about a bunch of things. I mean, everything from resumes to interviews to LinkedIn. We covered a bunch of great stuff. This is really cool. So for me, the corporate security translator and the author of So You Want to Get Into Corporate Security, we're going to leave it right here. We'll catch you next time. Take care, everybody. Good night.